You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. I remember as a kid just being glued to the TV screen. As soon as I'd get home from school, I only had one goal: Disney Channel. Everything else was completely irrelevant to me. All I wanted to do was watch The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It didn't matter if I'd seen the same episode hundreds of times, I just wanted to watch it. Even if it wasn't funny. In fact, I never even laughed whenever I watched that show, even if I knew exactly what was going to happen. I didn't care, because I just had to get my fix. It got so bad that my parents actually had to start negotiating with me. They ran their own Pavlovian dog experiment on me. No TV unless I do homework. No TV unless I did something outside first, like run around or play some football. And like the addicted dog I was, I did exactly what I had to do in order to watch The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I'd get homework done as fast as possible. I'd go outside, I'd run around, I'd get really sweaty, then I'd come straight back in, pop myself in front of the TV and just get all of the Disney Channel goodness, the dopamine just pow, 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 pow. But you know what's really just mental? I now feel the same way about writing. I know that sounds crazy, so just let me explain. You see, if writing feels impossible to you, if you find writing harder than something like scrolling on TikTok or binging YouTube, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're not irreparable. It's just your brain that's a little bit buggered. And it's all because of a little thing I mentioned earlier called dopamine. Now let me be clear, this video isn't going to be a typical dopamine detox video, similar to the ones you've seen all over YouTube. But it is essential you understand what's actually going on in your brain of yours. Because in reality, writing isn't hard. The only reason it feels hard is because your dopamine receptors are getting flooded with bullshit stimulation. And most people are getting so much stimulation that it's destroying their willpower. They can't be bothered to do anything else. And once you truly understand this, once you figure out what is stealing your focus and fix it, you'll realize that writing can feel more effortless than scrolling on TikTok. But first, you need to understand this. Writing can't be forced. It needs to flow. And there's a quote by author Haruki Murakami that captures this exact concept in a different way. The repetition itself becomes the important thing. It's a form of mesmerism. I mesmerize myself to reach a deeper state of mind. This is how writing becomes easy. It's not through motivation or hype or even hypnotism. It's done through ritual. It's done through rhythm. It's done through reprogramming your reality. And sure, it is technically a habit, but not how most people think about habits. According to Weber University, this is the process of how habits are formed. A cue triggers a routine that results in a reward, and then a cycle of craving is created. This is how I use my caffeine addiction to develop a writing addiction. So let me tell you a quick story. Last year, I was in a pretty rough place when it came to writing, specifically on Medium. I passed 20,000 followers. I was kind of happy for a few weeks, but eventually that faded away, and I was no longer satisfied with the things I was writing. The uncomfortable truth is my routine was a complete mess. I was not treating myself well, I was not engaging in good habits, I was eating very poorly, I was sleeping very poorly. Like I said, I was drinking a lot of caffeine, so that wouldn't have helped things. Also, just in my life, my focus was spread out all over the place. I was doing loads of different things. I was acting occasionally, I was dancing every week, I was rehearsing for a show, I was part of an amateur theatre group, I was trying to write on Twitter, I was trying to write on Medium, I was trying to write screenplays, I was doing all this stuff, right? So my focus was all over the place, and that's not even counting how much I spent watching YouTube. And because I had so many things on in my life, I was finding it hard to actually focus on what to write. One day, I just decided I'd had enough. I think I was in a rut for at least a couple of weeks, and I was feeling pretty miserable, and I decided, okay, I need to try something else. So I did something I'd never done before. I took my laptop, I went to a local coffee chain, I got an iced latte, I sat down, I drank it, I really liked it, and then I wrote something. But I didn't go crazy, I wrote a little thing and I called it a day. But then the next day I did it again and I found that I was able to write more. The only difference was this time I wrote before having the iced latte. And I wasn't aware of this at the time, but I was obviously following the same pattern that Weber University outlined for how to create a habit. I had a cue, which was going to the coffee shop. I had a routine, which was writing. And I had a reward, which was the iced latte. And later on, it became croissants and brownies and all this bad stuff. But I won't get into that here. The point is, without even realizing what I was doing, I was creating a habit loop. And it made writing a lot easier. I was able to get a lot more momentum after that. So much so that to this day, I have no problems going to a coffee shop and writing, even if I don't get coffee anymore. And the reason why is because my brain has rewired to associate coffee shops with writing. But let me hit you with some nuance that nobody else will ever admit. And that is that there is no such thing as the perfect time to write. It all depends on you, boo. So for example, Salman Rushdie writes as soon as he wakes up, probably around 4 or 5 in the morning. Whereas Tim Ferriss is someone who writes very late at night. He said somewhere that his best writing hours were between 1 a.m. in the morning and 5 a.m. in the morning, so he's more of a night owl. Me, on the other hand, when I was writing in the coffee shops, I'd always do it in the afternoon, which makes me the weirdo, because most people are either really early in the morning or really late at night. And the truth is, all of these times and approaches work. Why? Because we've experimented. We've tried different ways. We've tried writing at different times, and we've just found what works best for us. But most importantly, we're consistent with it. Listen, your job is not to follow what someone else does, just copying them like some brain-dead automaton. Your long-term goal should be to discover what works for you. And once you find your sweet spot, you'll be able to access something far more powerful. Flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, one of the OGs of positive psychology, said that control of consciousness determines the quality of life. And this is the force of nature known as flow. But what is flow? It's full immersion, no second guessing, no inner critic, no distractions, just you and the work. Think about the last time you were dancing, as an example. And if you're someone who says, "Oh, I don't dance," relax, okay? That's a lie you're telling yourself. You need to get on the dance floor and start shaking that tush. But if you are currently one of those introverted don't dance people, this probably isn't going to apply to you, but just think of something that is in your life that you like to do, like cooking or something. Anyway, think about the last time you were at a loud concert or a music festival. Do you remember how you felt when you were dancing to the music? The sound of the melody ringing through your ears, the power of the bass making your whole body vibrate, the flashing colors of light etching across your face, moving in unison with the music, your mind being completely free of thought, your body grooving as if it's got a will of its own, and everyone around you is immersed in the exact same experience. During these flow states, time doesn't just melt away, it stops existing. Minutes feel like seconds. Hours can fly by in a flash, and before you know it, the security guards are ushering you out because the sun's up and people have to go to work. This is flow. And when you're writing in this state, writing does not feel like work at all. Instead, it feels like you're playing the best game ever invented. So, how do you actually enter it? Here's the formula. 1. Set the scene. Clean your desk. Throw your phone in the bin. Just get rid of it. Like, if you don't want to do that, I don't know, just put it in a cupboard or something. Or just put it on Do Not Disturb, but do not have that thing in your room, okay? That is just bad news. No tabs, no noise, no distractions. 2, have a specific goal. Not a vague goal, a specific goal. Not write something. Instead, you want to be like, write 1,000 words on X topic at Y time. That's specific. That's a better thing for you to aim for than just, I don't know, write something. 3, create a ritual. Have the same tea or coffee. Write at the same time. Listen to the same playlist if you're a weirdo who listens to music while you write. Sit in the same chair. Do the exact same thing. Basically, you want to weaponize the Weber University definition of habit formation. You want to create this habit, this ritual that you can stick to that basically just tricks your brain into going on autopilot so you can do the thing you want to do, which is writing. 4. Use a low friction warm-up. So the way I do this is I just start writing, even if it's total bullshit, even if it's bad. Just brain dump some ideas that are in your mind. Just write anything. Literally what I'll do, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I'll open up a doc or Cortex and I'll just be like, okay, this is me writing now. I have no idea what I'm going to write, but I'm sure something will come out. Oh, and I have this really weird autistic dialogue with myself where I'm just kind of interfacing with the computer and trying to get my mind to start speaking. And then from there will actually be some ideas that emerge. But anyway, this is just a warm-up. This isn't going to be like your magnum opus. This isn't going to be your masterpiece. So don't put any pressure on yourself. The whole point is to warm up. Just like you stretch before going to the gym or do some cardio before lifting some weights. Another thing you can do is you could copy something word for word, a piece of content you like, just to get the rhythm and just to warm up, just to get ready, you know? 5, go. No editing, no perfectionism, no stopping until the quality starts to dip. Then you can stop, then you can have a rest, then you can go for a walk, whatever. Remember, flow can't be forced. It's a bit like falling asleep. You can't force yourself to fall asleep. Instead, when you want to tuck yourself in for a golden slumber, you have to set the right conditions for it, just like flow. So what do? You dim the lights. You go outside when it's a little bit dark so you can get hit with that melatonin. You read a book. You get rid of the screens. You make the room a little cooler by opening your window. Flow works in exactly the same way. It's not something you force. It's something you facilitate. You invite it in by making the space and setting the right tone. But be very careful because there is one thing that will kill it instantly. And if you do this thing, it will make it impossible for you to enter flow. Distractions. And I know I've already said that, but we need to go a little bit deeper than all the surface level stuff you've seen on social media before. This isn't as simple as just saying, turn off your phone, bro. Like, yeah, that's cute and that will solve quite a few problems, but it's not addressing the main culprit. Because your real enemy isn't your phone. It's not chocolate chip brownies covered in ice cream. It's not crack cocaine. It's dopamine abuse. As long as you keep rinsing your dopamine receptors dry, your writing will always be abysmal. To fix this, you need to have a mental cleanup on aisle 3. Cal Newport is a guy who calls this deep work. But I call it dopamine destruction. Because if you're doing any of these things that I'm going to mention in a second, you're being robbed of potential greatness and being left with absolutely nothing to show for it. So first off, sugar. I hate to break it to you, but you are not built different. I don't care who you are. If you put sugar in your body, you're going to get body slammed. And how do I know? Because I used to think I was built different. I used to cope all the time. But in reality, I was more addicted to sugar than Anthony Kiedis was addicted to heroin. I don't care what you say. You cannot handle sugar. Sugar will kick your ass 7 days a week, 24/7, no exceptions. And it's not because you aren't like this tough dude. It's not because you're not this tough beefcake. It's because sugar and your brain that just do not go hand in hand. Your brain cannot fathom the power of sugar. It's nowhere near strong enough to withstand the hellscape that is sugar addiction. It doesn't have the willpower for it. It gets a little taste and it just gets hooked. It can't help it. But not only that, let's not even talk about your brain. Your body takes a beating from it as well. It doesn't only make you fat, it also destroys your ability to think clearly. It saps your energy. It makes it impossible to write anything. Trust me, man, like sugar is no joke. You have to understand that your brain still associates tasting sugar with survival. It doesn't understand the context of where you are in the modern world. 2025 or whenever you're watching this video. It still thinks it's a caveman trying to survive. Sugar takes advantage of this mechanism in our brains that just makes us think we're doing something good when really we're doing something terrible. In the past, tasting something similar to sugar would be associated with a good thing because you're one step closer to surviving, you're getting some nutrients. But now, the modern sugar, like the chemically enhanced sugar, not the natural sugar, is 10,000 times stronger than the old fruits that we used to eat in the savannah. And we're not experiencing life or death survival situations. But the brain doesn't know this because it doesn't get context. So look, I know sugar might taste amazing when you're consuming it, but trust me, if you've ever felt terrible after doing so, it's not just because you know you shouldn't be consuming it, you actually physically feel worse as well. It literally leaves you battered and bruised after you've had it. It feels great when you're having it. It's a bit like a toxic ex-boyfriend, one who beats you up, slaps you around a bit, but then tells you they love you right afterwards. That's sugar, mate. Sugar does that to you. Next, social drama. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever met someone who's addicted to drama? Not just Game of Thrones, but real life drama. There's a reason why these people don't get anything done. The people who are addicted to Game of Thrones drama as well as real life drama. And it's because they're too busy talking shit about other people. This is obviously bad if you do it, but believe it or not, it's actually bad if you're around it as well. Because I don't know about you, but for some reason, gossiping just feels good. There's something sneaky about humans, the social animal that craves it. But the problem is, time spent gossiping is time wasted. It's time which you could have spent doing something productive or creative, but instead you're doing nothing. You're just being toxic. And what's even worse is, when you're giving attention to drama, you are draining your mental bandwidth. You're opening loops in your mind that you can't close unless you get more drama. Which is why it's even bad if you're hearing drama. Even if you're not the one doing the gossiping, just hearing it is going to cause you problems because you're opening loops in your mind and you're not able to close them without knowing what happens next. This is why people get addicted to TV shows and why people get addicted to gossiping. And if you get this too much, you're going to flood your body with cortisol. It literally releases stress, and I shouldn't have to tell you why that's a bad thing. And by the way, watching politics or looking at the news and any of this stuff, it has the same effect. So I'm going to move on. The next thing is trash content. These things are very sneaky. In some ways, they're worse than sugar. And just hear me out. At least with sugar, you can consume it and be done with it. Sure, like you will feel terrible after you have it, you will keep craving it, and you won't have any energy. But at least once you've eaten it, it's eaten. But with trash content, you can spend hours watching that stuff and just see the time disappear before your eyes, and you'll have no idea where it all went. Not only does it destroy your ability to focus, much like sugar, it also sucks up your time like a Dyson vacuum cleaner on full blast. And if the trash content you're consuming is mostly porn, bro, it's game over. Your brain is literally being tricked into being a cuck while simultaneously thinking it's reproducing. I don't think there's a bigger psychological finesse in the existence of the universe. And yet, according to FHE Health, 1 in 3 Americans actively seek it out, which is just a polite way of saying they're addicted to it. While according to WebMD, up to 73% of teenagers have been exposed to it. Now look, I'm not making a moral argument here, although I am sympathetic to the people who do make moral arguments against this stuff. For me, I'm only interested in you getting the best results as a writer. And the fact is, if you spend 8 hours per day on TikTok, 8 hours per day jerking off to porn, you're not going to be a good writer. Your brain is not going to want to write because it's getting all of this cheap stimulation from other sources. And here, on this channel, we are fundamentally concerned with creative sovereignty. We want to be creators, we want to make things, we want to be artists, we want to be Renaissance people. You cannot do that if you're addicted to pornography or trash content on TikTok or Instagram. These things will drain away your life force and leave you feeling hollow like an empty snail shell. But believe it or not, it's not even the worst thing that's taking advantage of your dopamine. That would be substances. Now, substances, like, we've hit the mother lode here, boys. Like, think of weed, alcohol, crack, heroin, meth. Every substance, barring psychedelics, is destructive. Substances have the same effect as all of the things I've just mentioned, but they're 10 times worse. Because when you become addicted to a substance, you don't only develop a psychological addiction, you also develop a physical one. For example, if you become addicted to heroin, your body will have to have heroin in its system. If not, you will become physically ill. And I'm talking about the worst kinds of illnesses you can imagine. This is what withdrawal symptoms are. It's your body being addicted to the substance. So you have a psychological addiction as well as your physical body wants it. And if you don't get it, you end up having the most horrific illnesses imaginable. You feel terrible. People have fevers, people have diarrhea, people have all sorts of horrible things. They have chills, they have nausea, they have stomach cramps, it's just awful. So needless to say, if you're addicted to a substance, it's going to be very hard to produce things. And if you're going to be an idiot and point to someone like Kurt Cobain or any of the famous rock stars who were also drug addicts, you need to understand context, okay? Kurt Cobain was taking heroin because he had horrific chronic stomach pain. So much so that without it, he could barely function, okay? So he's one example, and I wouldn't argue that heroin improved his creative process, and I would also say that he made some questionable decisions with his life in regards to taking heroin, even though, yes, of course, he needed pain relief. And if you point to other famous rock stars, I mean, are these people you really want to emulate? Really? Is that really what you're going to bring up to justify being addicted to a substance? How about you just don't get addicted to a substance? How about you don't get your body addicted? How about you don't have a psychological addiction? And you just live a more optimized lifestyle. I know it sounds kind of cringe, but you get what I mean, like a more clean lifestyle where you're able to create more and not have these crutches. Because the fact of the matter is, there is nothing more detrimental to you being creative than a drug addiction. It will literally consume you. I follow a guy who used to be a heroin addict. He tells these stories about how when he was addicted to heroin, he was just doing these crazy things. Like getting in car chases, jumping across buildings and stuff, robbing people, shoplifting, just to get heroin. Do you understand that when you become addicted to something like this, it's all your mind can focus on. It's all you want to focus on. Because if you don't, you're going to get sick. A person in that state, a person in that mode of survival, that mode of being, cannot create anything. So this is self-explanatory, okay? I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think you get the point. Now, I know I've just given you a dressing down, but it's important to understand something. The only reason I'm giving you this dressing down is because I was addicted to all of these things. I was fortunate. I was never addicted to heroin or cocaine, but I know that if I had taken cocaine or heroin when I was 18 years old, I would 100% become addicted to them. Because I was addicted to weed. I was addicted to smoking weed. I've been addicted to sugar basically all my life. I've been addicted to coffee. I've been addicted to pornography, of course. And the reason I've had to cut all of these things out is because I know if I get even a little bit of that taste, I'll be back to being that kid that was glued to watching Zack and Cody on the TV. I really want you to take this seriously because I spent years of my life smoking weed every day. From about the age of 18 to 22, I think just before turning 22, I was smoking weed every day, okay? And I didn't enjoy it, I had to, because I developed a psychological addiction to it. And I can tell you, when I was in this state of being, when I was smoking weed every day, when I was eating very poorly, when I was jerking off to pornography, my dopamine receptors were obviously fried, and as a result, my focus was fucked. And now they're not. I'm in a much better state. Dare I say it, I'm dominating, right? But I know that I couldn't be in this state. I couldn't be producing at the rate I am, or just being creative in the way I am, if I had any of these vices in my life just distracting me. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not special. I know I don't have 1 billion subscribers, I don't have $1 billion, I don't have 1 billion books, but I'm on my way there. Just watch out, man. And trust me, you can become a beast as well. You just need to stop handicapping yourself. Now, from the spiritual lens, from the absolute perspective, none of these things are bad things. That's why I'm not making moral arguments about why you shouldn't consume sugar, why you shouldn't watch pornography. It's not about that, because I know from the absolute perspective, none of it matters. But from the relative perspective of being a human being with a brain, these things are motivational death sentences and focus funeral homes. All of them spike dopamine way too easily, and if you want to be a writer, you cannot have these things distracting you. You need to get your dopamine spikes from writing, from creating, from being an artist, from pursuing creative sovereignty. You feel like you need something else just to ease your boredom. But understand that that's all these vices are. That's all these crutches are. You're not addicted to the pleasure of these things. You're just addicted to escaping the pain of not having them. And if you keep doing these things, you're not just actively killing your focus. You're training your brain to avoid anything that doesn't give you instant gratification, which automatically means you'll never be able to write anything ever. Because let's face it, there's nothing about writing that really feels good in the moment. Creating anything is really the epitome of delayed gratification. It took the Beatles 6 months to record the Sgt. Pepper album. It took 3 years to film Lawrence of Arabia, one of the best films ever made. It took 6 years for Frank Herbert to write Dune. Trust me, if any of these creators were addicted to things like TikTok, sugar, porn, heroin, they wouldn't have made anything. These pieces of artistic excellence wouldn't exist. And that's the world, the situation we currently find ourselves in. If you want to make great things, don't expect to do so by living like a devil who's desperate for dopamine. But the good news is, when you do clear away the clutter, when you do clean up the mess, when you do fix your life and reset your internal reward system, something beautiful happens. Writing becomes the reward. The act of creation becomes how you receive gratification. You don't need to try and force it anymore. You don't need any dopamine from garbage sources. You start getting it from growth. Everything you write becomes a small hit of earned pleasure. Everything you create becomes proof that you're not who you used to be and are one step closer to becoming who you want to be. And when you make this shift, writing stops being content and starts becoming a transformation. Because, my viewer, if you've watched this far, writing isn't just about building a habit. It's about building a new self, becoming someone new. Writing isn't just another way to self-actualize. It's the vehicle for growth, for freedom, for creative sovereignty. So if you're serious about making writing feel easier than scrolling on TikTok, click the links in the description below. The first link will take you to Magnetic Writing, my free email course that's going to teach you how to become a master persuader, grow your Click the second link if you want to learn how to write headlines that will increase your follower count as well as get you more content views. And if you're serious about becoming a digital writer in 2025, click the third link in the description. So it's all well and good knowing that you should get rid of distractions and you can make writing easy by fixing your dopamine. But what do you actually write about? Well, in this next video, I'll show you how to come up with an infinite amount of ideas. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.